What's up, guys? You're watching the Shieldbearer of Faith. Thank you for being here. Hope you all are doing well. So I got to go and spend some good quality fellowshipping time with some brothers out here and some of the youth out here a few days ago. We went and did Airsoft, and I can honestly tell you that I had a really good time, but I can honestly tell you that I had never done Airsoft. I'd done a lot of paintball when I was growing up, and I've done some simunitions training, and obviously in the refuge training classes, we used some training stuff with Airsoft. We used some training stuff with rubber ball guns. So I've done things like it. I've done force on force training, never at an official like Airsoft only facility. So it was fun. It was also a very small scale place. So we got to kind of just have the run of the place. And we got to do it in a slightly different way. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the whole event, I guess, because there were things that were good and things that were bad, and I'd like to try to advise you guys. So if you choose to do anything like this, you won't either have training scars, hopefully, or maybe you'll have more fun. So one of the things that I was told before I went that our group did, and again, we rented the place, it was like, 15 of us or something, that was different from most paintball or airsoft facilities is we played it more realistic. So if you got shot in the arm and it was an area that you could effectively tourniquet, then you could use a tourniquet. And so I was pretty excited about this when I was going. I had heard that last time they went, they did it this way. I was like, oh, this is great. We're going to actually get some training. And then if I wore body armor, we were playing it as if you got shot in the armor, you're good. So I did get to put a tourniquet on one time, and that was pretty cool. In fact, I started counting wounds as realistic as I could. So for example, I got a grazing wound from a BB here, like it just, skimmed right over top of my flesh. It would not have even impacted bone. And so I was like, screw that, I'm not taking that. And this is how pretty much everybody else was playing as well. So I was like, I would not stop fighting if this was real just because of that. Now, then I got a different one. Where was it? Somewhere else. I got a different one on the arm, and it would have been a much more legitimate hit. And so after I took a guy out, because I didn't want to practice, I got shot, immediately start rendering aid. I teach people not to do that. So after I had finished shooting the guy I was shooting and exchanging rounds with, then I laid down, pulled out a tourniquet, threw it on my arm, tightened it down, and then changed arms and went left hand dominant with my rifle. Then went and took out two other guys that were within this like structure that I was dealing with. They were around a wall. Went and took them out and got killed in the process. So I was like, okay, cool, that'll work out. But man, it was a lot more fun playing it that way, where you, go render aid to yourself. You got hit, cool, you're not dead. Much more fun. Same thing, like I got hit in the leg. I still have a mark from it. I don't recall getting hit in the leg. I don't remember it. And it may have been during that moment I just spoke about where I already had a tourniquet on, and when I exchanged rounds, I probably got hit in the leg. Otherwise, I didn't take many hits. I took one to the face right about here. That was pretty good, and I obviously was immediately dead from that one. But I, for the most part, didn't get shot much. And so I thought a couple different things. One, BBs are hard to feel. That's one thing I've always not liked about Airsoft. Because it doesn't leave a paint mark, you don't have as easy of a time knowing when you've been hit. It also doesn't hit with as much force like a paintball does. So it doesn't really help people like me that I can just keep on going. With these little dink, 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 I can keep on going and not even realize I've been hit. However, it did have some really good benefits with the tourniquet practice if you were aware enough and were carrying some to do that. And then it also had team practice. That was really where I saw the value of this stuff. Because just playing the game, I'm sure, I know I got shot a lot in the armor. And that was actually encouraging on one hand because it does show how people aim reflexively. They aim here. under stress, when your heart rate's up and when you're running around a field, your heart rate is definitely up. Force on force also increases your heart rate just because you know there's an adversary. So your heart rate is up. You do not reflexively aim for legs. You aim for the person, whatever you can hit, or the area of the person, whatever you can hit. And again, in most cases, I wasn't getting hit in my face because you should be using cover appropriately, and then my gun should be the main thing that's being seen there. If you keep your arms tucked, they shouldn't even be exposed much. Your legs should not be exposed outside of cover. So I was finding that a large percentage of the hits I was taking was because of the amount of aggression I was throwing their way. Otherwise, I just wasn't getting hit, or it was wounds that wouldn't be life-threatening, and so I was like, I'm not taking that. I even told him, I was like, if you're gonna get me out in the game, the hit would actually have to kill me. Otherwise, I'm not gonna practice I got hit, I'm dead now. That's not a good thing to do. And I've seen that be a training scar in Responder 3 before, when I was still helping with those, where we would have people you could tell played a lot of paintball or a lot of airsoft because they'd get hit once in the big toe and they're dead. That's not how real life works. You can take a lot of damage. So it's actually useful to train taking a lot of damage. It wasn't that anybody was trying to cheat. We had all agreed that this is how it would be played. Take the hits as if it was real. And you can start to build some different types of focus. So for example, when I got hit in the arm, I did not immediately start throwing a tourniquet on. I kept shooting. I won that immediate threat, right? Or rather, won that immediate fight. And then I got behind some cover, laid down, and put a tourniquet on. That's a very different mindset than most other force-on-force things where you got hit. Okay, well, either you do nothing or you just are dead. That's problematic. So don't do that. If you're going to go and do force-on-force stuff, really try not to play it to where, I got hit in the big toe, I guess I'm dead now. It's not a good way to be. It was also pretty interesting when you think about how much just random foliage will affect a BB. If you're not careful, you can start to think that bullets won't go through twigs and leaves and stuff. And what you might think is cover when you're playing airsoft is not even close to cover if it's real bullets. So be really careful with those training scars. Another thing, at one point the objective was to go up this slight incline. We were going to retrieve a hostage, quote unquote. It's one of the guys that we had with us. He decided to role play. We were going to retrieve the hostage from the bad guys and run him back down the hill. Now, unfortunately, he got shot a lot. I know he got shot by me. I know he did. So I was like, sorry about that. But that's kind of the way it is. So you've got these guys that are in close proximity to bad guys. Yeah, bullets go a lot of different places. That's not good. But one thing I also noticed was most people refuse to get low, to get on the ground, because it wears you out, it gets you tired, puts your face in the dirt. And so all I had to do to essentially disappear was lay down. That was really fascinating. That's also something I think we should all keep in mind. There's a reason to practice doing burpees. To practice getting down, getting back up, getting down, getting back up. It's very militaristic in its usefulness. My right thigh, comparing to my left thigh, I was able to note which leg I do lunges with. When I go to a knee, which leg do I stand up with? I can tell you it's my right because it got much more workout than my left. So my thighs were burning because if you're not going all the way to the ground, going prone, you were essentially doing lunges over and over and over again, trying to get low, get more steady, get behind cover, lean out. Leaning works the muscles too. All kinds of interesting stuff. Getting to wear my armor was good. I wore it a lot in Ukraine. I was glad I had it. I was glad that I had lightweight armor. And the armor I had, guys, is stupid expensive from Shot Stop. However, it is extremely light comparing to other armor, and it doesn't fatigue you as bad. My shoulders did not feel the weight of my armor, so that was good. Having mag pouches, being able to actually change mags out was really nice. The guns, by and large, I think are junk for airsoft. I know there's better ones out there, but if I'm going to spend $500-600 on an airsoft gun, which I'm not going to anyway, if I was going to do that, I might as well get a real gun or I might as well get real ammunition. because the training value was not good enough for me to be like, well, I should go buy one of my own. No, I'd rather rent one and just let them retain the ownership and let them figure out what to do with it when it breaks. I also noticed that I had to go exchange a gun pretty often, whether my magazine that they gave me was malfunctioning. It seemed very finicky. I didn't like that. I had to change out magazines a bunch of times, and when we were in the game, I would change mags if one was malfunctioning. I'd go to another mag, just like if it was real life. That was pretty good training-wise. What I didn't like was when I would do that, sometimes something else was going on in this oversized toy, right? It's what Airsoft is. And it still was malfunctioning. No fault of mine, it's just no longer working. That's pretty frustrating. I guess in some ways that has a realistic training value too, because your gun can absolutely go down when you don't intend for it to, and I was not carrying a pistol. Yeah, so that's a good note, isn't it? That you might need to be able to go to a secondary weapon. It's at least a useful thought. But it adds weight, adds bulk, adds size to your body. At one point I got really close to the other team just by crawling. I picked a small divot in the earth, like a ditch, and crawled. Was essentially invisible because I wasn't wearing a lot of bulky stuff. There wasn't much sitting off my back, so I was invisible. Was able to get very close, was able to observe really well, and then I was able to coordinate two of my other teammates, which were much younger than I am. But that was pretty encouraging too. People take direction if someone takes charge. So at one point, I had to tell them, I'll say, John and Jane, I was like, Jane, do you see that gray tarp right there? She'd say, yes, I see it. I say, good, go to that. Go now. And I'd start covering or whatever. And then I'd look over and be like, John, do you see that stack of barrels right there? He said, yes. Okay, go there now. And I'd, provide cover and fire. So we were gradually working our way up. That was useful. So if you're going into Airsoft for the training value that team tactics would bring, or trying out your gear, or just the general physical fitness aspect, because that's a big one, I would think Airsoft has value. If you're going into it for the value of force-on-force training, some of that's applicable. I would think if you did some indoor ranges or very close proximity spaces, probably would be better. But being able to just run a Airsoft gun on full auto with a 250 round BB magazine, that's not realistic. No. But that is how you had to run it, because otherwise you couldn't hit anything because the BBs would swerve so much you wouldn't actually hit anything. Or you'd hit the person but they wouldn't feel it because its velocity and mass is so bad. So I had a really good time, but I think the training value that I took away was the physical aspects for myself. Like I said, my legs were burning from all the lunges. And then I think the overall physical exertion required, because you're competing with another human being or a series of human beings, and then coordinating as a team. Yep, the ideas of fixing and flanking and fire and maneuver, bounding, all of that stuff applies, and it has to be used right. Something else I noticed? People by and large had an understanding. We were so close to the opponent, you had to be careful what amount of communication you gave, because they can hear everything you hear. They speak the language you speak, as compared to if it was a real violent encounter with real rifles at real rifle distances. You could be yelling and nobody on the other team would even hear it. So use it as you will. I had a really good time. I recommend doing it. Do it with people you know, and do it with the purposes of team tactics. Hope it helps. I'll see you later.